Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
good. How are you?
Good.
Oh, nice to meet you and talk to you. Thanks for doing this. It really
Yeah.
means a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I respect the hustle. You know what you want. You're gonna take chances, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. So congratulations on another really good year. You guys finished out the season pretty strong there. What was that like for you guys? Because you had some really good games down the stretch, especially like against the Texans. Like you guys did really good.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of years, obviously, since I've been here. We haven't won a whole lot of games. Not have we won, but it's been tough to be competitive in some of the games we've been playing. So this year, like you said, at the end of the year, to really kind of, I think win more games than we lost. I think in the last 6 or 7 games, I don't exactly know the record, but it was nice. I love playing football. I love long snapping, but if we can play more games like the Texans game where we punt once and we snap a whole bunch of field goals, that's usually a good thing.
Yeah, and then just a fun little question here: who do you think's gonna win the Super Bowl?
You know what? I It's tough to say. We played both the teams. We played obviously played the Chiefs twice with them being in our division, and we played the 49ers in camp. They're both incredible teams. I think George Kittle's a tough matchup for anybody. And I said at the beginning of the playoffs, if he can stay healthy, I think the 49ers will win it, and he's healthy. But Patrick Mahomes, he looks like he's on a whole nother level out there right now, and he looks like he's on a mission. So I think it's going to be a good game. I may have to give the edge to the 49ers, though. I think they'll get it done.
I agree with that pick there. You have a few former teammates on that team, like George Kittle, like you said. You were on the team with Ben Neiman, and were you on the team with Anthony Hitchens too?
Yeah, so Anthony and I actually came out the same year. He was a year younger than me, but he didn't redshirt. So we came out the same draft class. We actually both ended up in Dallas our first years. He was drafted there. I signed as a free agent. So it's awesome to see the success having, and it's fun to catch up with him. Twice a year with him being in Kansas City now. And CJ Beathard on the 49ers. So I think I have connections with all those guys. The only one I don't, and I met him this year when we practiced against the 49ers in camp, is there's a former Hawkeye on the practice squad with the 49ers, I believe, or at least he was early in the year.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's great to see those guys have success. Every year you play against former teammates and things like that, and it's awesome to say what's up. Even some of the older guys I've never met who played way before my time, who are coaching in the NFL now, they always come find us Hawkeyes and say what's up. It was a big year for me this year. I finally got Micah Hyde's jersey. He's another guy came in the same class in Iowa. He dodged me the first year trying to give it to me, gave it to somebody else, but I finally got my Micah Hyde jersey, and I was pumped.
Yeah, and then you've had your fair share of success too. You were in the Pro Bowl last year. What was that experience like for you?
It was incredible. I was just talking with my wife, and I saw Morgan Cox, who's the long snapper for the Ravens, who was selected this year for the AFC. He posted a picture of him and his family in the airport getting ready to head down to Florida. And I told my wife I missed it. Man, it was such a fun time. It was a blast. I hope to get back to a few more, but looking back at it, it was such an honor. I've told people this before. There's no long snappers and there's no long snappers in the Hall of Fame right now. So kind of the pinnacle award that we can get is Pro Bowl, and to see my name with some of the greats who played my position, and not only my position but at every position, was so much fun. And you get to see some of the elite guys and build relationships, which was fun going into this year because we play teams and you run into guys I met down at the Pro Bowl, and I thought, these guys probably won't remember who I am. It was my first one. I was a long snapper, but no, when we played Minnesota, I remember Adam Thielen running up to me saying, "What's up?" We were asking about each other's kids, and that's probably the coolest part of the Pro Bowl, just getting to meet some of the best and be around them.
Have you ever really been sort of starstruck around anybody that you met?
You know what? It's tough to say yes because you know what? There was one time when I came out my first year, I was down in Dallas, and there was a guy just catching thousands of passes on the side, you look really big, and I didn't really follow the NFL much. I was really into college football, and obviously just trying to make a name for myself at Iowa. And I asked one of the other rookies. I said, "Yo, who is that catching passes? He's really good." They're like, "That's Dez Bryant." And this was before. This was like my first day there, before all the guys were in the locker room. Well, it turns out his locker was right by me, and this was 2013, 2014, and Dez was still being a monster in the league, and that was kind of the first time I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a real superstar. I'm just some nobody free agent. And Dez was awesome. He was a great dude. He had a lot of fun. We talked, every day because our lockers were by each other. He actually gave me a pair of Jordan cleats that I still have today. And after that moment, it was kind of like, you know what? These guys are really big players. They're super famous and the best in the league. But they're just regular guys. They're just football players. They're teammates. And that was a good lesson for me to learn.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now?
A lot of hard work, I can tell you that. It all started when I was younger and just having fun playing sports. And I think that's my advice for younger athletes is there's a time and a place where wins, losses, personal success come into play. But when kids are young, have fun. Just have fun with your friends playing sports and just try to get better at everything you do. A lot of people think that the road to where I am today is all, rainbows and butterflies. It's all good stuff. But I can tell you there were a lot of, there are more times in my career where I was down in the dumps, facing failure, trying to overcome some failure. And I needed a lot of support around me to kind of push me through those lows to get to the highs. But getting to where I am today, there's no secret formula. It's hard work, it's dedication, it's worrying about getting better every single day. And like I said, just facing those ups and downs in stride and continue to just try to be the best player you can be or whatever it is.
And that sort of leads into one of my other questions. What were some of those obstacles that you faced to get to where you are now?
The big one that comes to mind is when I was in college. I went to the University of Iowa. I walked on as a linebacker and long snapper. I wanted to play linebacker. That was my goal. I think the reason I was asked to walk on was because I had the ability to long snap pretty well. But Iowa let me try my hand at linebacker, and I found out, a year in, they moved me to defensive line, and then it was kind of like, I don't know if I'm ever going to play defensive line, so let's focus on this long snapping. And I remember there was a freshman that came in, and he was ahead of me on the depth chart, and he was getting a lot more reps than I was. And I was pretty disappointed. I kind of let it get to me, and I wasn't really working as hard as I possibly could, and I was just kind of moping around a little bit. And I remember calling my parents, and my dad was kind of sympathetic, and I called my mom, and my mom kind of called me out and just said, "Are you sure you're working your hardest? Are you sure you're really taking this, seriously?" And it sounds like you're doing a lot of complaining. And I was pretty mad at my mom for saying that. I wanted her to be on my side, obviously, but she was 100% correct. She called me out. I took a better look at myself and what I was doing, and after that, kind of reevaluated it and committed myself to getting better. And that was a turning point in my career, and that's kind of when I started having a little more success. Some of the guys in front of me at the position ended up leaving the team, or I jumped in front of them, and then I started the next year. And the other one that comes to mind is after the second time I got cut in Dallas in the preseason. I was honestly ready to be done with football. I was gonna go teach and coach and be happy doing that. And I was again lucky to have good support. My wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time, kind of said, "Give it one more year." She's my fiance. She said, "Give it one more year. Let's just see what happens." And luckily she did, and I kept pushing and landed here in Denver that next year. So, there are countless moments from middle school to where I am today where failure was right in my face and I was pretty down in the dumps. And it takes good people around you, and then just as you get older and you have a little bit of success. I was talking to Doug Schwab. He's the head wrestling coach for Northern Iowa. And he was telling me that you start to enjoy those moments when you're in the dumps, the failures. And when you can enjoy those moments and use them to get better, that's when you're really going to take yourself and your career to the next level. And that's not just in sports. I mean, that's in education. That's in, what you're doing right now. You're trying to learn the ropes of being a reporter and being a content creator. And there's going to be highs and lows, and it's just figuring it out and learning.
So you have mentioned your time at Iowa. What was really most of that time like for you?
For me, it was a lot of just focus. When I look back, I don't regret anything I did because I was locked in. I went to school. I tried to get the best grades I could, focused on my education and science education, and then after school I went to football. And when football was done, I went back home and I studied a little more. But the thing I'll remember most is the relationships you build. With my roommates who now are having kids of their own, and I have 2 kids, and it's fun to see that. And like I said, running into Micah Hyde every time we play him and joke about the things we would joke about in college, and I'm out there pregame snapping, and he's out there catching punts, and he's talking trash to me, telling me they're gonna beat me in block punts, or hey, you better hope I don't get a return because I'm gonna score a touchdown on you, and I'm chirping him, telling him, I hope you return one because I've always wanted to tackle you in a game, just so you have that in your mind that you got tackled by the long snapper. That's the fun part. Those are the relationships you build, and if I would have never played in the NFL, I could still go talk to those guys and have a lot of fun. But doing it now at this level is it's an interesting dynamic, but it's the best part of the game.
Were you a Hawkeye fan growing up?
I actually wasn't. I grew up being a Minnesota Golden Gopher fan. My mom's from Minnesota. I was kind of a rebel at the time. I didn't want to be like everyone else in my school and be a Hawkeye or a Cyclone fan, so I kind of latched on to Minnesota. And it's funny because they actually have the same fight song as my high school fight song. And we reached out when I was going through the recruiting process. They wanted nothing to do with me. And, once I hit that recruiting process, all my fandom for certain teams went out the window, because when you're looking at, hey, I want to play at that level, you can't be stuck on one team. Iowa had the best opportunity for me, so I went there, and it was the absolute right position. I've said this before. If I could do it again and you said you could go to Alabama, get a full ride scholarship, and you're going to win 3 or 4 national championships, or walk on at Iowa again, I'm going to walk on at Iowa every single time, knowing what I know. But full circle, when we played my redshirt sophomore year in Minnesota, they scored on us nonstop. It was not a great game. And I heard that fight song over and over and over again, and I grew to resent it. So now I go back to my high school and I hear a fight song, and I have nightmares of that game against Minnesota.
So just a fun little question here. In a zombie apocalypse, which teammate would you like to have with you?
Oh, this is a great question. I'll give you 2 answers. So if we're talking about Hawkeye teammates, I think I'm going to want Brandon Sheriff with me. Large man. He enjoys the outdoors. He enjoys hunting. He actually took me on my first turkey hunt when we were in college together. Had a blast. And if we're talking the NFL, there's a fullback named Andy Janovich. Again, outdoorsman, tough guy. He's our fullback, like I said, and he would be the one. Those 2 guys I would want with me for sure.
And so who was your idol growing up?
There's a couple role models that I had growing up. One of them being my father. He was my high school coach in wrestling and football. He was a teacher. He's a cancer survivor, so I think that kind of put into perspective for me the advice he gave me. I think that helped me really understand that, hey, he's faced some pretty tough times, and the things he's telling me, I think, have a lot of weight. He's still my role model today. If I can be, half the dad, half the man he is, I think I've done pretty well for myself. But the other one that's not, family was Dan Gable. I think I ran into a Dan Gable book in my high school library once and read it, and just kind of, fell in love with his story, the ups and downs he faced, the competitor he was, the competitive coach he was, and I read a bunch of books about him, and small world, Danny Ulsta was the long snapper at Iowa, 2 before me, actually ended up marrying one of Coach Gable's daughters, and I built a pretty cool relationship with Danny. He helped me out a lot, kind of tweaking stuff and this and that. And then, I find out he married Gable's daughter, and now I've met Coach Gable a bunch of times and sat down and had some dinner with him. And, it was really cool for me to not only grow up and idolize him and use him as a role model, and now get to meet him in person and sit down and talk to him. So it's a small world and crazy how those things happen. But my dad and Coach Gable were two of the biggest role models I had.
Well, that's pretty cool. So your uncle was my PE teacher before I started getting homeschool again. He has a poster of him outside of his office. So I immediately thought of that when you said that.
Yeah.
So, was being a football player always your dream growing up?
I think when I was going through high school, I love sports. There's kind of, growing up, there were three things I loved. I loved sports, I loved being outside, and I enjoyed playing video games. It was pretty simple. If I was doing those three things, I was happy. So, I get to sophomore year, having a little bit of success in the sports I've been doing, and I knew I wanted to continue college and play at that next level, but it was time to kind of make a decision. So I decided I wanted to play football and kind of put most of my eggs in that basket and focused on it, but I still wrestled and ran track and played baseball. And then after my redshirt sophomore year in college, I had a pretty good year, and I remember Coach Herb sat me down after the season and said, "Hey, you have some talent. You could go to the next level, but you need to get a lot better." And again, it was one of those moments where I was kind of shocked. I thought I had a pretty good year. I think I played pretty well. And he could tell that, and he said, "Here's what I want you to do this offseason. I want you to study your tape. Go back and chart everything and be really hard on yourself. And if the snap isn't in the perfect location, and we're talking, a 1 foot box around the snapper's hip, then it doesn't count as a good snap." And I think I charted it, and when I thought I was snapping at probably an 80% accuracy rate, I think after doing that, I realized I had like a 33% rate, and that's when it hit me. Man, I got a lot of work to do. And then after the next year, my redshirt junior year, that was kind of when I was like, you know what, I think I can go to the NFL. And then that was kind of my internal goal. I didn't tell anybody that. It was my secret goal. I wanted to keep it to myself. And then after my senior year, I had some opportunities. So it kind of developed from a young age. But like I said earlier, my focus was always just to improve. Just get better on something every single day, every year, improve on something. Never make the same mistake twice. That was my focus.
So growing up, what was your favorite thing to do, just as a hobby?
Yeah, I would say video games. It's still a hobby of mine now. It's a little tougher with two kids, but I find time to play. And I remember growing up, my dad was not a huge fan of it. Actually, my Uncle Huge was the first person to introduce me to video games. He had a Super Nintendo at their house, and I loved going over to his house because I would just play Mario and the baseball game and enjoy doing that. And it's funny to this day, my dad will admit that he was concerned that I played too many video games. He didn't think it was good for me. He thought I was, gonna become a bum who just sat on the couch and played video games all day. And I still joke with him today that, hey, you thought that, but I think I'm pretty successful, and I still play video games. And he jokes, because he's the athletic director in DeWitt, that parents will approach him, "Hey, I think my kid plays too many video games." My dad has to finally admit, like, "Listen, you know what, I thought the same thing about Casey, but he turned out okay." But like I said, I enjoyed playing sports with my friends, whether on the field or just having fun in the backyard or shooting hoops, being outside, and then playing video games. That was pretty simple.
What are some games that you play now? Oh, sorry, I got my dog.
No worries.
What are some video
I got one
games?
here too, so.
What are some games that you play now?
I play a lot of different games. Obviously, Fortnite is huge, so I'll play that a little bit. I'll play anything single player that's not a sports game, which is probably weird to hear from a professional athlete that I don't play sports games. But I play sports for a living, so when I come home, I like to kind of get away and escape. So There's a lot of different games. The Witcher, Skyrim. Been playing the new Pokemon game a little bit. So I'm kind of like the guy in the locker room that plays video games. So if other people play, they'll come ask me. And there's a lot of my teammates right now who play video games. So people put a stigma on it, but I think it's a good, healthy thing in moderation.
And then, so who's probably the biggest gamer on your team?
Man, I would probably say me, um, but I don't know, it's a little skewed because I'm not a position player. I'm not in meetings all the time. I don't have to watch as much film as those guys, so I have a little more time on my hands to play. But there's guys like Justin Simmons, Josie Jewell's another one who plays a lot of games. Our kicker Brandon McManus plays. I actually streamed last year on Twitch a little bit and had a bunch of teammates come on, and hopefully I can do that again this off season. And it was a great way to interact with the fans, and they jump in the stream and jump in chat, and we communicate and they ask us questions. So it's a lot of fun.
So what are some things that you like to do during the off season?
Right now it's just spending time with my family, spending time with my wife and my two kids. The season's really long. I'm gone, all day most of the time. We get one off day a week. Half the year I'm traveling to another city for 2 or 3 days. And so right now it's just spend time with my 2.5-year-old son, playing whatever he wants to play, watching some movies. Spend time with my 6-month-old daughter, and things like that. And then, eventually we'll start focusing more on training and things like that. But the off season's, time to just get back with the family and, enjoy spending time with them.
So you live in Colorado now. What are some of the things that you really like to do down there?
Hiking. That's the biggest thing. The mountains are beautiful. You can't beat the mountains, getting in them, driving down on the highway and seeing them. I miss big cornfields, I won't lie. The cornfields of Iowa. I love driving down the highway in between a bunch of rows of corn, and I do miss that, but we enjoy hiking, and the weather out here is fantastic. In Iowa, we used to go back to Iowa right after the season, and then we realized and remembered that it's like -20 and the sun never shines. You can't play outside. Well, and we always said to ourselves, why are we here? We could be in Colorado where it's 60 degrees and sunny. So we like to go hiking and just be outside.
Yeah, my family's got that same philosophy. We're moving to Florida in 6 days, so.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll enjoy that.
Oh, yeah. And so you travel around the country a lot now. What are some of your favorite places that you've been able to go to now?
Oh man, there's so many good ones. Anywhere in California is really, really fun. They always have great food out there. That's one of the fun things that our kicker Brandon McManus has kind of made it a point that when we go away to away games, we like to find somewhere to eat because we have some time after we land in the city before our meetings start to go get some dinner. And that's been one of the more fun things we've done. Just go into, like you said, these different cities and find some food that's really popular in the area and eat there. But in terms of just playing football, I'm gonna miss Oakland, playing in Oakland. The stadium is wild. The people there are crazy fans, but it's a great environment to play in. And Kansas City is also a really fun place to play. Since I've been with the Broncos, I don't think we've won in Kansas City, so that's kind of on my bucket list to get done. We got to get a win in Kansas City here soon.
So you mentioned food. What's probably the best restaurant you've ever had on the road?
Oh, there's a place in Los Angeles called Bestia. We've eaten there, I think, 2 or 3 times now, and every time we go, the food is fantastic. It is unreal, and no surprise being in LA. But I would say that this off season or this preseason, we went to a place in Seattle called the Pink Door, which was pretty cool. It's like it's hidden in an alleyway, and there's no sign. It's literally just a door that's painted pink, and you go in, and it was Italian food, and it was really good.
So I'm just about to wrap up here. So you're stranded on a deserted island. What are 3 things that you're gonna bring with you?
Oh, I don't know if this counts, but I would love to bring my family. If that counts as one, okay,
That
I'll
counts.
bring my family. I'm gonna bring some matches so we can start a fire, hopefully, and stay warm. And you know what? I need to read some more books, so I'm gonna try to bring a whole bunch of books, and we'll just enjoy laying on the beach in the sun and reading books every once in a while.
For my answer there, I always make sure I add a boat in so I can just escape.
You know what? That's a great one. See, I'm more of a I like the thought of having to try to survive, being a survivalist. So we're gonna build our own boat and hopefully not get eaten by sharks.
Good plan. All right, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, you keep grinding at this. You're really good. That's actually probably one of the better interviews I've had. So you stick with it, and just you're gonna do great things.
Thank you, and
awesome.
You are too. So
thank you.